Hello everybody and welcome to part 6 of my Turok versus the T-Rex live painting series here. So let's go back here, and this is kind of where we left off last time. So as you can see, there was a little bit more work done probably on the scaling here, and as well we did the kind of rock cliff back here. But to be honest, I wasn't too happy with the rock cliff. So I came up with this. Let me just get rid of the other one there. And I changed the ridge in the background too. I find that it just seems closer to everything. It doesn't seem something massively far away. As well, I used reference for this one. Let me just find the rock reference layer. You can find every reference layer except for that one. Oh, here. So basically, this isn't actually a cliff. It's just a section of rock on, well, I guess it is a cliff edge, but it doesn't really protrude like that, as you can see. So I just kind of used that as my template, kind of copied the shapes and just drew those in there as highlights. And then we'll go in and refine them more, maybe today. But we're going to probably focus a little bit more on the T-Rex today as well. Another thing I did is I found some pterodactyl reference, because I wanted kind of a pterodactyl in this guy. So I kind of just did that. So just a simple shape. He's not going to have much detail at all. He would be in shade anyways. And as you can see, I repeated that down here and down here as well. And I did more work on refining the feathers for the T-Rex. So right now I have them just kind of crudely put in there. And what I did is I ended up adding that. So we went from this to this. Same basic techniques that we've been using all along for everything. I was just using a brush with a texture that has that looks a little bit more like a where you can actually see the strands in the brush. So if I go to this layer here, I'm just going to increase the size of this brush. So as you can see, it kind of has that where you can kind of see where the brush stroke a little bit more, like the bristles of the brush. And that's how I created that. So I just put in the reddish highlights in there, and then I went in with kind of the same orange highlights that we have here. And with the orange highlights, instead, I just used a regular kind of detail brush for that. So, and finally, composition-wise, one bigger element that I plan on adding is another dinosaur in the foreground here. So I found that it was just a lot of this was feeling like just too much empty space here, especially since I don't plan on putting much detail in that area. So I was trying to think of ways that I could help that out, and I decided what we're gonna do. Oops, I can bring, wrong layer. So this layer here, I just quickly with my mouse just painted kind of a shape of like some sort of raptor dinosaur, and that is going to be in the foreground now. Again, he probably won't have much detail on him, but I believe it just leads your eye better, because now we have kind of this kind of pattern going on where it's leading your eye, where before it kind of led down here and kind of straight down after that. So I think just directionally it's going to lead the eye better. It also means I don't have to worry about certain areas in here as much either. But I really do like, composition wise, what that'll look like hopefully in the end. And this is just very rough. Like I said, I didn't even have my pen my pen tool. I just did it all with the actual mouse. I'm just gonna grab that. And as you can see, there's kind of like a white halo around it. That's because I actually did that in Photoshop. I like to test out a lot of my like experiments in Photoshop. It's because I know it a little bit better. Even though I am liking Clip Studio now. Now that I kind of am figuring out how to get the looks and stuff that I want. So today we're probably going to go in here and I want to finish up at least the head of Tyrannosaurus Rex. Get all my detail in there and possibly some work on the rocks there as well. But we'll see. And then we'll probably have one whole episode where we're just going to work on the raptor there. Alright, so I'm just going to make sure I find the right layer for the scales. And I'm going to continue on doing the work on the scales. I think I used the lighter ink brush. Just trying to get the right size of brush here. That's about the right size. And grab my darker shade there. And let's work on some of these shapes. I was finding that I wasn't doing that bad of a job with just random shapes in there, so I'm not really using the cracked mud reference as much as I was before. It was good. It's really good kind of like starting point. But now I think I'm just gonna kind of freehand these shapes in there. Now that a bulk of it is kind of filled out. This is where we're gonna start getting some bigger shapes maybe. Just being careful not to just do too much repeated shapes. Now this, once I collapse this layer, I'm gonna merge it with the layer below, which is the actual layer that the dinosaur is painted on here. That will help when it will allow me to go in there and refine some of these edges where the shadow's too dark because it's on a multiply layer right now. So all of that will work itself out as we go along here. Just gonna lower the size of that brush a tiny bit, just where so it matches but better some of these other areas. I'm just gonna put some kind of randomly here to connect to. Just hopefully get more of that randomization that I'm looking for. Alright, so that's good. It's filled out that kind of area there. Another thing is I'm still not sure what I'm going to do exactly for the texture on the tongue here. I tried using a kind of spatter brush, and it gives you a little bit of that idea. I might leave it at that, but we'll see how it all looks when everything's kind of done here. Let me just save. Computer just did something weird in the background, so just a little bit worried that that's gonna make us shut down here. So still haven't been able to update my Windows properly. It's been an issue since October. But I think that the only solution is really going to be for me to redo Windows from scratch entirely on here, and I'm not really looking forward to doing that yet, so I'm gonna have to find just a good time to figure that out. Most of my stuff is actually on a different hard drive in the computer, so it shouldn't be too bad. It's just in reinstalling all these programs and everything, and it's just nerve-wracking thing to do when it's been a while since you did it last. It really sucks that they haven't done much to really help people with this. Like, I'm not the only one. Like, I've been going on forums trying to figure out like why this is happening with my computer, and the error codes I've done everything I can to that anybody has any suggestions for to fix the issue. First, it wasn't reading for some reason. The registration for my Windows for some reason was not working properly, and it could be because one time my wife was using her Microsoft Office account on my computer because it wasn't working with her Mac. So she needed it for work, and I think it confused my computer about my whole Microsoft licensing. And since I decided, well, I'll just buy a new license, because I was using home version. I was like, well, maybe I'll just buy a professional license anyways, which I was hoping would fix the issue, but no, that's no longer an issue. I'm getting a different error code, and when I worked through the stuff that fixes that error code, I actually had my computer actually stopped, and then I had to like manually go in, and because they had you like rename a file at some point, and then I had to, after renaming that file, Windows wouldn't even start, would crash before it even started. So I had to go in through DOS and rename the file. So with all the issues I've had with it so far, it's just really annoying that they haven't, and I'm not the only one. I see lots of people on forums with still the same issue that have not been able to upgrade, and the fact that they no longer are supporting this version, which I think is like 1909 version, is really annoying. And my laptop, same thing. Even though it has a newer version than 1909, it hasn't updated to the new, I think 20 or 2H02 version. Like, Microsoft has been doing such a piss poor rollout of this new Windows update. Like, I wonder how many people are actually updated to the new one properly. Like, I'm not a big fan of Apple OS either. I remember in college I had tons of issues with it, and it left a real bad taste in my mouth, as well as kind of the business practices of Apple. I'm not biggest fan of either, but it seems like there's no real good. I mean, there's, what is it, Linux and stuff out there, but I don't want to, I need stuff that's going to be compatible with everything I'm using, you know? Operating system that can handle the little bit of gaming I do on my PC, and all the art programs and professional audio programs and video programs. I'm also really upset with Adobe, since like it costs you so much a month to use their product, and yet you can't update, or your update renders like a whole series of drawing tablets like unusable, and you never fix it. Like, I mean, it worked before in the earlier version. I'm sure that you could get it working in the newer version. So this episode's all about me complaining about computers problems. That it's just very annoying. Anybody who's gone through that stuff, it's just, everybody's gone through it probably at some point where things just aren't working the way they're supposed to. And I could see if I had like a crap ton of like pirated programs or something like that on my computer, but they're not. They're all legit, and like, not that I understand why people pirate some of these programs that are super expensive, just to get a start. And then most people, though, it seems like after they've kind of get established, often they'll actually pay for the license, and they're making it somewhat better. The fact that you can, at a lower cost per month, just get it and try it, and then, but there's so many alternatives now too. Like this program, this Clip Studio, is great. Seems to do like 90% of what Photoshop does. I mean, some of it's in a little different way, and if you're coming from Photoshop, it's not really all that intuitive, but if you're just starting, I don't understand why you would, even if you're just doing art stuff, if you weren't doing like professional video stuff, like you could skip Adobe altogether and just be using all the free alternatives. Like there's Krita, there's this, there's GIMP. Well, this isn't free, but for like, I think I paid maybe I think it was less than $50. It was on a sale, and this does go on sale regularly, this Clip Studio Paint program. And I don't need the pro version, since you can pretty much do everything. Like, it would be nice to have if I'm doing like a full comic book, just so you can kind of do everything together and not have to stitch it all together with like Adobe Acrobat or InDesign or something after. But for the most part, if you're just wanting to create art, the like Clip Studio Pro version is great. Like, you don't really need much more than this. I mean, there's some speed things that I've noticed. Photoshop is a little faster with doing certain things, and some of the tools I find a little bit more efficiently, but that could just be because I've used Photoshop for, decades. Let me just save that again. And then there's, the quick keys. People get used to certain quick keys, or hotkeys. I know people that swear by them, and a lot of people think if you're not using them all the time, you're not really like, oh, you're not a professional level. You're not using this hotkey to do whatever. Just like, I don't understand where these ideas come from, because you can work, especially if you're working with, with a tablet like this, like, you can do everything through the menus nearly as quick. Like the milliseconds, I guess, would add up, but it's not going to be to a point where. But people are impressed with that stuff for some reason. Like, if you're in an interview or something, you should probably be telling them in your descriptions of what you're doing, like, be very detailed and use a lot of the hotkeys. And I don't know. It's like a stupid thing. Like, if you actually timed the people, I doubt there would be enough significant amount of time difference in the actual output of work. And I was thinking, I'm doing kind of tighter, smaller scales in this section. I just want kind of like that different colored area there to have a little bit different shape of scales. And I'm thinking I want this one here to be kind of where the highlight is there. I'm just going to put like a bigger scale. Yeah, I'll keep that for now. And I kind of want to have these kind of go along more of the. I'm being more careful with these about the shape of the neck, and kind of making sure that they'll follow that. So I'm just gonna kind of go along the areas that I want it kind of to be shaped by, or similar to, first. Just where the skin folds would be. I'll probably be going in here and like really darkening those areas too. Now I could be copying and pasting again this stuff, but to speed it up a little bit. But there's just certain shapes and stuff I kind of want with to emphasize the shape of this section. Like I said, where the skin folds are. Now, I didn't stream last week because we had some internet issues here. There was a power outage, and ever since, my Wi-Fi and everything was, my television, everything was not running properly. So we actually had to get the technician to come out and see. He had to replace one of our cable boxes, and he had to do a reset on our the 5G signal from the Wi-Fi. I was just anticipating issues, and I just didn't want to get frustrated with it. Also, it was extremely hot in here last week. I think inside my place it was hitting 27 degrees Celsius, which is pretty warm, especially when you're already dealing with like a warm computer, a warm monitor. I was just thinking, like, I'm going to be spending half the time wiping off my my screen, my hand, the pen. It's like I said before, my pen is lost the rubber section, so I'm just gonna have to like buy one of those slip-on ones and then like turn off the buttons, which I never use the pen buttons anyways. I find they react slow with this monitor anyways. Like, it's better to just like reach over to my keyboard that's down over here to my right. Just works better than trying to use the little buttons on the pen. So I just used to have a bunch of those like slip over ones, but I think they all wore out. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do with the Raptor yet either. So I want it to be definitely want it to not take away from the T-Rex if it draws too much attention. So like it's going to be way less detail orientated than say this Tyrannosaurus Rex is. So it'll be interesting once we get to that, how to kind of do that without ruining the aesthetic and consistency of what came before it. I don't know if any of you guys watch David Finch's channel, YouTube channel. He's a comic book artist, worked on like Moon Knight and a bunch of other, pretty much any major comic you can think of now. But I think that's kind of where he got known, was on his run on Moon Knight. But he has a YouTube channel that very much inspired me to try to do my own kind of like live stream drawing. Because I knew I didn't want to just create a bunch of video content of like, here's how to draw this, here's how to draw that. Because there's so much of that already. That's why I decided to do kind of more. I figured, yeah, if I'm going to do something, I want it something that isn't a big time suck of work after drawing. So that's why I've kind of gone the live stream route. The only thing that I'm going to be doing is obviously like the I've already done some of the like time lapses of everything after it's complete, just because people seem to really enjoy that, see how things come together. And it's something that I can more easily share on other social media, like Instagram and stuff like that. I've thought also of like perhaps going to Twitch or concurrently streaming on both platforms, but I really want the YouTube one to work out just because I love the ease of use of it. To go live and stuff is so easy and quick, and I'm just not sure if my computer can take doing anything more than one stream at a time. I'm not sure how that works, but I've heard of people having issues. So you kind of want to make sure that your computer is up to the task. Which I have a decently quick computer, but the processor's like near 8 years old. But the video card's pretty new, but that doesn't really help, I don't think, in the whole streaming situation, since it's only a quad core with 8 threads. I think that would really hinder its performance on trying to do 2 high definition live streams at the same time. So maybe in the future, if I ever upgrade, I'd probably buy a new motherboard and just upgrade. Probably I'd probably drop the Intel, maybe switch to the AMD, just because the price wise on their like chips seems to be way better for their PCs, at least currently. But we'll see. By the time I'm ready to do that, maybe everything will be different again. I mean, I bought my 2060 KO video card here right as they were making the change to the 30s. But I'm glad I did it when I did, because I don't know if I would have been able to get anything. I would have been still using my 960 that has like barely any VRAM. So it is nice that I got it when I did upgrade. Financially, though, I think it's going to be a while before I can really get another thing going here. I was hired to do a t-shirt for a podcast, a t-shirt design for, well, it's not a podcast. The guy also does a podcast, but he's got a kind of like a live YouTube series about, I really got to disable that pen button. yeah, it's kind of like an old school like horror movie host thing that a friend of mine started a while ago, and it's really doing well, I think, for him. Called Android Vision. And that'll be the next kind of live stream. It'll be like a line art t-shirt design. It's funny because he sent me all these ideas, and they were very similar to what I already kind of had in my head for it. So it'll be cool to actually get started on that one. So it'll be something really quite different in the next one. It's going to be a t-shirt design, a line art, like comic book style. I did his logo for his podcast. They had a podcast called Cemetery Gates, and I did their podcasting kind of logo. In a like real comic booky style, and he really liked it, so they did some shirts of that. They're really cool. He sent me one. It was really nice. But if you like horror movies, definitely check out Cemetery Gates podcast and Android Vision. I was like, for a few years there, I got really, really into horror movies, but I've been finding my enthusiasm for them and for the genre is waning lately. I just don't know if it's because there's not as much good stuff or what, but there was a show called a movie recently though that I saw that was pretty good. It was called Psycho Gorman. And it's about a little girl who stumbles across basically this weird rock, and it gives her control of this alien creature that goes around destroying planets, and kind of the wacky kind of relationship between this really narcissistic young child and this alien. Yeah, it was pretty good. I watched it on my birthday last month. I really enjoyed it. Surprisingly, my wife enjoyed it a lot too. I didn't know if she would enjoy that one or not, but I was kind of surprised. Oh, there it goes again. The button on this apparently is set to do the alt, so it keeps selecting a new color every time I accidentally press it. Well, that's looking good for the scales on the... We'll put some more highlights in there on them too. Maybe in spots. Probably not as much as I was doing for the top, because like I said, I want focus of everything of detail wise to be kind of in here. And in fact, I'm probably going to just grab the gouache blender and soften up kind of some of these areas here where I want it to be not as... So basically what I'm doing is I'm using this almost like it's like a brush that you would use for softening, blurring brush that they have in Photoshop. But the nice thing about this one is it does it more with like a little bit of texture to it. It'll soften all that up. But that's looking pretty good. I'll go back to what I was doing. And I don't know how much more scaling we're going to go into here. Probably not a lot, but a little bit. I'll probably kind of come into here, and then I'm going to really I'm just going to cut that and paste that in there for now. See how that looks. And just fix up the edges here where stuff's going to be connecting. The light I'm using here is sometimes it just catches. This monitor has not very good viewing angles, so you'll see me adjusting it every now and then, or adjusting my head, and I'm sinking lower and lower and lower in frame. It's mostly because I'm trying to get a better look at the screen, because it's not always the greatest. Well, again, I'm just going to go and grab that gouache blender and yeah, really lighten up kind of what is going on here. I'm just gonna find some more music here. I was listening to the Death Proof soundtrack. I'm not sure what I want to listen to next. I've recently switched phones not that long ago, and I haven't really moved over much for music, so I don't have a lot of choice. But this will work. Now I got a little bit of Curtis Mayfield, a bunch of other soul music on here. I just noticed that these kind of scales are not really great for that shape, so I'm just altering them a little bit. I'm being a little bit sloppy here with them, but should kind of get more of that random shapes going on here. Alright, that's looking good. And just gonna soften up kind of the areas here that it's gonna not be quite as strong. It's got some pretty dark parts there. Just lightening those up a little bit. It'll be mostly in the highlight where you'll see where parts will kind of stick out more than others. I'm just gonna grab this kind of shape and switch over to the move tool. Hold Alt, which will copy it, and then put it over, deselect. That is one what am I thinking? That is one shortcut, keyboard shortcut that I do use all the time. I'll use Alt to pick a color, or like that, you're using Alt to take a selection and copy it, move it to another section. Very useful. Just not always sure if I'm grabbing the darkest tone there. No, I wasn't. So, not that I want all that to be that dark, but I want to at least be able to see it so I can back it away, soften it up in those sections. Yeah, T-Rex is looking pretty good. Now I'm just wondering about like this section here, what I want to do about that. I wonder what kind of, I'm just gonna Google some lizards here and see kind of what they have for that kind of section. What kind of, if there's scaling in that section or what is actually going on in that kind of expanded, stretchy kind of band there. Trying to think of what kind of lizard might have that. Doesn't seem like many, if any, do. I thought like maybe a monitor with its mouth open. Might have something like that. Yeah, they do. It's not very big or pronounced, but you know what? Let's see what a snake with the mouth open has. Because some of them have that kind of banding looking area too. I just want to see kind of like where, well, they don't really seem to have much. They'll have like a bending texture a little bit, or in the section where it would kind of come back. Not that I think, I don't know if a dinosaur particularly have it more of this shape or not. I'm just gonna try to see what I think. Okay. Well, what I'm gonna do here is I am going to go with a little bit more a yellow highlight here, and kind of give it a little bit of just kind of a directional kind of shape there. So it seems like it kind of almost like kind of sections it out. I don't know what I'm saying. It seems like it kind of carves these little kind of areas. It almost reminds me of like watermelon flesh, if that makes any sense. Just looking at the reference here of kind of what you get with that. I'm just going to grab a brush that has more of like a spatter brush again. I'll bring the size of that way down, and I'm just gonna nope, need that smaller, just kind of where the highlight kind of areas are there. Just go kind of along that. Let's go with a little bit of a redder, orangier tone in there as well. Just on the other side. That just increases the contrast there a little bit. Just having the yellow by the red there gives a little bit more contrast. I'm just going to go in here now with kind of like a darker color. And define some of these shapes here with kind of the spatter brush. What that's gonna do is it's just gonna seem like there's a little bit more of a texture to that area of skin, where it's not just like a singular smooth shiny bit of skin. It's actually got like a granular texture to it. Yeah, I'm just gonna grab, or not that. I just wish this was had a little bit more saturation on this than it has. Unfortunately, doesn't. Let's go with a dry. This is more like a dry brush kind of effect on this brush. Again, these are some of the brushes I got from I think it was Ahmed a Nude. On his website, he had some free brushes, and I think that's where I got a lot of these ones I'm using now. Mostly I use actually the standard brushes from Clip Studio, but I do use a few of these other ones. Just bringing some of that back a little bit. So I went a little too dark in spots. But I want a little bit of a highlight in there too. Yeah. See, that gives it a heck of a lot more texture feeling there, where it's not that it's not exactly the same as everything else there. Let's go back to the oranginess here, and I'm just gonna put some of that bright orange into the tongue here. I think I need to go a little bit lighter yet. Now I'm just gonna make a new layer here because I want to try doing some kind of spit that would band from the top to the bottom of the mouth. Just looking at some pictures of different animals with kind of, probably a dog would probably have the best, or a wolf barking, maybe some sort of dog barking or howling. Just want to see. Just want a little bit of there. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah. And grab kind of that highlight. All right. This is going to be Spit T-Rex. Oh, do some banding. It's going to make that a little bit bigger, a little rougher of a brush. I kind of want this to I'm not sure. I kind of want you're probably wondering, like, what is he doing here? Come on. It's funny because spit kind of has this, especially like has this kind of weird kind of shape and arc. Now, a lot of the reference I'm seeing here is like a dog kind of like really whipping its head, but not in one kind of direction, but it has these weird like kind of more like shapes like that going on than I was expecting. I'm just trying to, like, traditionally that would be a a pretty easy thing to paint. Digitally, since I can't just fling paint at the screen here, it's gonna be a little bit tougher to kind of replicate, unfortunately. I'm just trying to see if there's any more reference here that would help me out more than that one shot I'm currently looking at. So I just don't wanna, like, I kind of got that same effect here in the dirt there. That same kind of like squiggly. It's just when you're doing it on such a large animal here, it just doesn't work quite as well. It's not as easy to do. I was tempted to just kind of do that, like the spit kind of coming across here and stuff, but it's not really what I want. Now, I doubt even a Tyrannosaurus Rex would have much spit, because I don't think lizards are too frothy like that, but see, like, here, I'm gonna grab this reference here and kind of just put it here so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. So as you can see, it's kind of just this like weird kind of almost spider's web of stringiness that you get from the spit coming off of something, and it doesn't really follow like a pattern that you would assume. Like, it's a lot of straight lines. Oops, I need to just there. So if I zoom in here on this, oh, sorry, save it. I saved it just in case there. So you can see, like, it's even flinging. You got stuff flinging out here even. And just these like shapes that you get are like almost like a spider web, like I was saying, like they're not like curved lines. There's often like these straight kind of spittle lines, and it's just not the easiest thing to reproduce when you're working digitally. So what I am gonna do is I am gonna try just grabbing some of this, drawing over it, rescaling it, and use that kind of as a template. Get in a position that would work for the current piece. I'm working on. And sometimes it's the best method to, you can call me a tracer, I don't care. Some things are just going to be a pain in the butt otherwise, and this is just gonna make it so much easier to figure out the shapes. I mean, some people just download a brush that would do a lot of it for them, but how to figure out what those guys use when they draw Spider-Man comics. Oh, I was drawing it on the wrong layer. Figures. It's that karma saying, no, don't just copy this. Maybe. I'm on the right layer. Time is it? 3:23, so we've been going like an hour. I don't know if I'm gonna do a super or 2 hours today or not. We'll see how we feel after we kind of get this done. I want to kind of get to the point where the the Tyrannosaurus Rex is at least pretty close to being finished. Now it looks weird right now, but Control D. Oh, what happened? Oh, there it is. My eraser. I'm just gonna kind of go in here, just back and forth, kind of breaks up kind of the lines that are kind of coming across too strong. Then we'll grab a spatter kind of brush again. Really up the size of that though. I don't know if that's making the kind of like the smaller making all that kind of smaller there, not the actual the actual particles of the particle brush there smaller by increasing the brush size or not. It's a little bit weird. See, that just kind of helped me kind of get an idea of stuff. You know what? I might just kind of delete some of that there and add some kind of more spit and different shapes of stuff here. And go in with the eraser, erase some of it in spots. You know what? I think I kind of want the spit to kind of also. I had this idea from the start. It's kind of like I wanted it kind of be coming off kind of directionally in this kind of direction. And I'm just gonna go back in there with, let's add some of this in here. Spatter. And eraser again. Let's break up some of those sections. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Now I'm just going to turn that layer onto a screen layer and lower the opacity down a little bit. That just means that it's going to mix in with the background a little bit more, like there, so it's not just like completely opaque on top of the color below it. But that's looking pretty good in my opinion right now. It's kind of what I was going for. I'm just gonna go back in on that scale section. I'm just gonna add those highlights I was talking about, re-adding in. And some sections here. Let's grab a good highlight color here. Just on the parts that seem like there's more light hitting it, where you might get some little bit more of that highlight on the scale. Like I said before, if you want a highlight to kind of, you want something to kind of be sharp, the best way to create that kind of shape, distinct shape, is to put a highlight right next to a dark line next to a bright line, and you're gonna really get separation. And of course, you still want to keep the direction of light consistent there too. I don't want to go overboard with it, but just a few parts in here. Yeah. So that Tyrannosaurus Rex is now looking pretty good, pretty mean. I think that the way that the hair is going and with the spit and stuff, it's really gonna add to the let's actually bring that back up a bit brighter. It's really gonna bring your eye even more towards that. I just don't know if I'm pulling too much attention away from Turok there. But I'm liking the way that looks. I also like the fact that this guy's kind of going to be, I think I'm going to do that where the light here. So I'm just going to make another layer for a second here. So light's kind of coming in kind of this way. As you see the highlight there, highlight there, highlight there, highlight there. And then kind of coming across his back and the hip there. So this guy is going to probably be mostly in shade from the actual T-Rex. So I'm going to keep him very much in shade there. I'm going to have to look at some more reference, kind of figure out what they actually look like or what it possibly could have looked like. It's a nice thing about them being dinosaurs is it can have a little bit of leeway on stuff because we're not exactly sure. They're pretty sure on how T-Rex looks, I think, now. I think he had kind of more, like an orangey kind of section where he was probably getting a lot more sunlight hitting him, and more like a beige skin tone. I think they found some frozen stuff and did DNA tests. I believe that's what happened. I haven't researched it greatly though, so I could be completely off base with that. But they thought his feathers were actually more like spikes. That's why I kind of had them more like hair. Also, it just looks cool. I think, at least. I think it looks pretty darn cool that with him like that. Now, I wasn't going to really put much indication of scales on the arms here, but they do look lacking. The problem is when knowing where to kind of work on adding the details and where not to. And if you're getting too detailed in spots, because you don't want the whole picture. That's usually when you see stuff looking really amateur, is when it's everything is in focus. This just isn't how the human eye would see it or a photograph would see it. You're just not going to have everything all in focus there. So it's kind of a little bit of a guessing game here in parts of trying stuff out, seeing where you need to scale it back. I can always soften up that stuff. That's a nice thing about working on layers, so you can easily found a hotkey there that I don't know what it's for, but it was weird. It's like a weird kind of selection. thing there. Yeah, and then I'm just going to go in, like I said before, I use the blender kind of to soften up the spots I think that need to be kind of dialed back a little bit. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, looks good. I really wish that zoom in wouldn't jump from like a 12 to a like 6, like 50%. Like I'm sure there's some way of fixing that too on this program, but I'm just not aware of it yet. Like I said, I'm really liking the look of that Tyrannosaurus now. Turok, I think he's pretty close to done until I go in there and maybe find one or two little details I might want to add in there, but I think he's, for the most part, going to be the way he is. So mostly I'm going to be looking at probably working on the let me just rename this one quickly. Mostly be working on the rock and then move on to the dinosaur in the foreground. Reference. Just labeling that one picture of the dog as reference. What I'll probably end up doing soon is going in there and actually kind of renaming or making folders for the layers, so all of my kind of references all kind of together. Just gonna bring some of that highlight tone of that rock in there. And on the other side, I'm just going to use some of the shading tones. It's kind of like where the rim light is kind of coming from. I'm going to use kind of the tones that we used in the shadow of the clouds there. This is gonna make it all feel more coherent, and that it's not just stuff put in there that's like from a different section kind of thing, like that's copy and pasted into there. Doesn't really fit the scene. Just don't want to go too far with it. I think actually using the reference, well, there was nothing really wrong per se about the other one, the other rock face. I just greatly prefer this one that I actually used a reference on. I think it just really helped like the flow of the piece. And I had it way too small, kind of off in the background too, so it really is helping with leading your eye to the parts we want your eye to be led to. Oh, let's save. Grab that. Just add. Some kind of, it's a little too, that was a little too bit of sharp a brush, so I'm just getting more, just want to create some like cracks and stuff in certain spots here, just to give it a little bit more of a real rock face vibe. Let's do that debris one. Just bring that down. You know what? Maybe not. It's getting too detailed in there. If I do that. Just kind of doing that little like dimpling technique I was using on some of the scales. Just going to give them, the rock faces, a little bit more of a natural shape. If it's not all like squared off highlight, more variation in shape there. It's a little, I went a little soft on some of these areas where it should be sharper, but I'm trying to kind of get a kind of good mixture of both there. This, just upping the size of this. I want to see what kind of shapes this does. Oh, particle size. Let's do a bigger particle size. See what that does. Okay. And grab the highlight here. Just want to do that right on the. Oh, the spit. There you here. Just had a. Sounds like some sort of package or something has arrived here. And I think that's where I'm going to stop it at today anyways. It's going to be a little bit shorter of one. So let me just zoom in here and we'll take a look at what we've done so far. Let me just close that. All right. So today we focused mainly on getting the T-Rex done, and I would say he is 90% the way there to being finished. He just probably about 90%. And we started working on this rock face, this new rock face I got in there. And so that's where we're going to leave it today. And I hope that you can join me next time. And I want to thank you guys all for watching today. And I hope that you can just keep on